Sometimes I get to borrow a watch that I immediately fall in love with. It's problematic when it happens since I'm still saving for that Speedmaster and I tend to buy all sorts of stupid gadgets all the time, which means that my savings slush fund constantly bleeds. I'm sure this is something you, dear viewer, can relate to. So a few quiet minutes spent out in nature near my favourite river, trying to convince myself that I don't need this watch in my collection, should help. Or not. Ginault is a brand I've heard of before, specifically in relation to their Ocean Rover model. Since I have little to no interest in homages, and specifically Rolex Submariner homages, which is to me the most boring subject in the world, I never entertained checking one out. I certainly did hear about some controversy or other about it being made in the USA or not, and if Ginault was the same person as a certain infamous American replica maker. But again, not a subject I care about, so it's filed away in a dusty part of my brain. Thanks to my friend Mark's efforts, who happens to be a big fan of the brand, I have the new Silent Service watch in my hands here. So now I do in fact have to cover some of the controversy about the brand, and I will do that. But know already that I'm so impressed by this Silent Service watch that I am absolutely dreading handing it back. This is an extremely well made and beautiful watch, so my review today will be all about highlighting this fact and trying to find small nitpicky things to complain about, since honestly, otherwise I just go on and on about how nice it is. So if you'd like to settle in for the next 10 or so minutes and have me do my very best to do the Silent Service justice, including some extreme macro shots that punishes even the best of the best, then welcome and thanks for joining me. YouTube's algorithms will do precisely nothing for channels with less than 10,000 subscribers, so if you can help me reach this milestone, I would be forever grateful. Thanks so much. Leave me a comment too if you like. Let's get stuck into some specs first, so we know what we're dealing with here. The watch is 41mm across, with 20mm lug width and 47mm lug to lug. It's only 12.1mm high, and I had to say that overall it feels more like a 39 or 40mm watch than the specs indicate. Perhaps since the bezel is quite wide and that plays a visual trick. This model should fit most wrist sizes, but I will point out that it's dead flat. Even on my large 19cm wrist, there has been times where I wish there was ever so slightly contoured to my wrist more. But this is a tiny complaint considering the bracelet falls off completely downwards, ensuring it looks good on wrists and stay flat. So size is out of the way. Much like when you first meet your partner, it's the face you notice, and then everything else hopefully grows on you, and this is quite a face. There is more than a fair share of inspiration from one of my all-time favourite watches, the Omega Seamaster 300B Triangle from 1968. Ginault describes this dial as super fine matte, and it's all of those things. They also describe these indices as forge applied and hand assembled, and I'll tell you what, I've not seen such perfect indices on the macro since I reviewed my very own Grand Seiko Snowflake, and that's saying something. The fun sport of extreme nitpicking usually saves the prime time viewing for printing on dials. But I can tell you now that the print, and there's lots of it here as you can see, easily holds up to watches I've handled and inspected costing 60 times more than this one. It is an unbelievable achievement if every hand-built watch manages to match this sort of quality control. It's so crisp and clear under loop and macro that if you manage to find some flaw, you're either an eagle or an alter ego Clark Kent. The hands are no different. But if I was an absolute sadistic stickler to detail, I can see tiny microscopic uneven surfaces on the edges. But you would have to get so close to see these that people around you would start wondering if you had lost more than just your marbles. Obviously, we have sapphire glass covering all this goodness, and the triple AR coating is clear, so no blue hues, and it's effective under natural and artificial light. So the face is crazy good, but is the Lume? I will come back to this, and the answer to this might surprise you. If you can't wait, I have chapter markers to go straight there, but you know, patience is a virtue. Let's play with this bezel. I love sapphire glass bezels. They are gorgeous with their subtle reflections, and the photo-etched numbers are large and clear. But what we're really here for is the turning experience. I had the 12-hour, 12-click bidirectional bezel with a 60-teeth bezel, and in my opinion, it's excellent. It's neither too loose nor too hard to move. I've put it up against my Damasco DC80 here, since they do make the best bezels in the world, and whilst the feel is obviously different with the DC80 ceramic balls and German black magic, the required pressure is the same, if not slightly easier to turn than the Ginault. In short, I would not change a thing here. The quality feels continue with a screw-down crown, signed with a Ginault clover. It's easy to grip with no crown guards, and winding the Sellita SW200-1 Elaboré grade movement is as smooth as you'd expect. There is a ghost position here since there's no date to manipulate here, so if that's the sort of thing that bothers you, you've been told. Note though, there is a date version coming, so the ghost will have something to do soon. Moving on to the bracelet, this is a good time to talk about USA made or not. I get that if you live in the US and want to support local business, this would be important to you. But for me in Australia, I only care that it's well made, full stop. That said, perhaps I wouldn't appreciate claims that aren't true, so the concern is sound and I'm not dismissing it. USA regulations are very strict, where unlike the Swiss-made moniker, which is quite relaxed, 100% of parts must be made in the USA. With the Silent Service, all parts are made and sourced in the USA except the bracelet, gaskets and inserts, and the movement is obviously Swiss. And according to John at Ginault, that I've been chatting to extensively, it's all hand assembled in their workshop. So you are supporting a local US business without a doubt, and they are upfront with the Silent Service what gets sourced where. That's enough for me, and hopefully for you too. So is this bracelet any good? It's clearly heavily inspired by Rolex, who by the way make the best bracelets in the world in my opinion, and I'd say Ginault supplier is 90% there with this. To clarify, the individual brush links, the brilliant Rolex glide lock solution for quick adjustments, and the little hinge at the clasp that is so unique and user-friendly on your Rolex bracelet is perfection. The one area where it doesn't quite measure up is the fastening of the clasp and that extremely luxurious feel of ceramic ball bearings at the security hinge. It's good, but it's a bit like closing the door of your Mercedes versus your Peugeot. Both have a satisfying thud, but they are simply not equal. The back of the watch is mostly plain, but the screw-in case does specify the respectable water resistance of 300 meters. And it has a fish next to that. I love seeing fish icons next to water resistance, it just makes me smile. It's soft to touch and has plenty of space for what I assume is engraving your loved one's name or perhaps just a smiley face. No judgment here. So the Lume, to be perfectly honest, I expected more here. By no means is it bad, but this will be my only recommendation for improvement. It should be much stronger, particularly with the large Lume triangle at 12 indice, which on my old Helson Sharkmaster that had a similar layout would still blind me at 3 AM. Hopefully the production models will rectify this, and I do strongly suspect that this area will be improved since it's something we all tend to appreciate these days and gossip about online. As is pretty clear, I'm unexpectedly in love with this piece, with this lovely combination of various design elements from some of the best watches ever made. It's a shame I can't claim that I never received it and simply disappear, since I suppose it's obvious now that I not only have it, but I would be a prime suspect too should it not leave Melbourne. You can order this watch at some great deals at the moment, ranging from around $1,040 to $1,199, depending on if you want the date version or not. I don't want the date, so for me, this very model at $1,040 is incredible value for money, and I hope that you feel the same after watching this review. For your money, you get a brilliant little package that includes accuracy testing, a screwdriver to change the links, and a high quality box. If you do have doubts or questions, the team at Ginault have in my experience been extremely thorough in their communications with me and volunteered every detail I've asked for, so I would recommend reaching out if you are at all concerned. Perhaps the one thing to keep in mind is delivery times, since handmade in workshop means just that, and it could take a little time to reach you. But as they say, first in, first served. Thanks very much for watching and supporting my channel, and I'll see you next time.